Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Classic Comics. So, today I'm reviewing the Mandalorian Chapter 13, The Jedi. Now, this was a big episode for different reasons. We got Ahsoka Tano in live action for the first time, and there's some other developments which are also interesting. I'll be giving spoilers in this episode, so if you haven't seen it yet, you should definitely watch that first before watching this video. So we start with what appears to be an Imperial base of some sort on Corvus that's under some kind of attack. We see troops running around in a forest at night, and then we see Ahsoka fighting these guys, and she makes pretty short work of them. After defeating them, she confronts the local magistrate, Morgan Elsbeth. And Ahsoka says, "You know what I want. I will give you one day to decide whether you're going to give it to me or not," and then disappears into the forest. Now, after the credits, we see Mando and Baby Yoda flying to Corvus and landing. Mando's then goes to the settlement, and a mercenary that works for the magistrate is in charge up on the city walls, who is played by Michael Biehn, actually, from the Terminator and Aliens films, among other things. It was nice seeing him getting some work. Now Mando is allowed into the town, and we see that the place is under martial law. Guards are everywhere. Several citizens have been sort of imprisoned publicly in these kind of cages that shock them if they move. And Mando is quickly confronted and taken to the magistrate. Now she makes an offer to Mando. If he will kill the Jedi for her, she will then give him her spear, which is made of Beskar. Mando doesn't exactly agree, but he does ask, "Where can I find the Jedi?" He then heads out into the forest to find Ahsoka. She ambushes him and they have a brief fight, but Mando explains that he was sent by Bo-Katan. And during this fight, we discover that Beskar is actually resistant to lightsabers. Lightsaber blades can't cut through Beskar. But then Ahsoka spots the child and the fight stops. We then skip to later that evening, and Ahsoka and the child seem to be communing through the Force in some way. Now, Ahsoka learns that the child's name is actually Grogu, and that he had been at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant being trained when the Jedi Purge took place. And he was taken from the temple by somebody, we don't know who, and spirited away. Now, Ahsoka tests his Jedi abilities by asking him to move a stone with the Force. But when she can't get him to do it, she asks Mando then to try and get him to do it. But he can't do it either at first. Then Mando takes out that metal knob that the Razor Crest, from the Razor Crest that Grogu likes so much, and he's able to move that. Ahsoka declines to train Grogu, arguing that Grogu's emotional attachment to Mando makes him vulnerable to the temptations of the dark side, so Mando offers a deal. If Ahsoka will help train him, then he will help Ahsoka defeat the magistrate. Ahsoka attacks the outpost and makes short work of the guards, then Mando appears, and Lang realizes that Mando is working with Ahsoka. Now, Lang and Mando have a standoff while Ahsoka confronts the magistrate. The magistrate duels with Ahsoka using her Beskar spear, and Ahsoka defeats her, of course. Mando defeats Lang, which I was actually kind of sad to see. I was hoping that we might get more of Michael Biehn returning sometime in the future. Then we find out that Ahsoka, or what Ahsoka wants from the magistrate, and she wants to know where Grand Admiral Thrawn is. We don't know if the magistrate actually told her, though. We then jump to some time later, and Ahsoka offers Mando the Beskar spear, and Mando says that he'll bring Grogu to her. She still declines to train him and instead directs them to an ancient temple on the planet of Tython, where Grogu can use the Force to decide what his fate will be, what path he will take. She also says that if there are any Jedi out there, they'll sense his presence on Tython and they may come for him. Then Mando and Grogu leave, and the episode ends there. So this was a really good episode overall, although I do have some issues with it. One nice thing about this episode is that the world of the Mandalorian gets expanded in significant ways. One thing I liked is that we get a new planet on the show, and it's not a desert world or an ice world. Corvus is a forest planet, but we see in the episode that it's in bad shape. We see factories in the background that are putting a lot of smoke into the sky. The sky always seems to be overcast, and the color palette in this episode is just a lot of gray and brown colors. Now, the forest seems to have been burnt down, and the trees are all bare with no foliage. It's a new and different environment for the show, and I liked it. I'm a little tired of Tatooine and ice planets, frankly. Now, the music in this episode was also quite good. There's flutes used at various spots in the episode, particularly for Grogu, and it gives an Asian feel to some of the episode. That leads me to another thing I liked about this episode, and that is the Eastern samurai meets Western gunfighter mix of genres, which has been present on the show from the beginning, really, and in fact, it's been present in Star Wars from its very conception, but it was especially prominent here, from the music to the architecture of the outpost. You know, it has these hanging lanterns you see in the background sometimes, and the magistrate, at one point we see her feeding fish in a koi pond. And then that leads to the Western style showdown going on between Mando and Lang late in the episode. It just all really worked well here. Of course, the big draw for this episode is the appearance of Ahsoka, and she helps this episode really feel more like Star Wars than any other episode so far. Rosario Dawson does a good job with the character, and the lightsaber choreography is really well done. It just feels good. One complaint I have, and it's been an issue on the show in other episodes, is that the guest star in the episode seems more like the main character than Mando does. Ahsoka seems more like the star in this episode than Mando. It felt that way with Cobb in the first episode, it felt that way with Bo-Katan in the fourth episode, and it felt that way here too. This is probably in part because they're planning to send Ahsoka or spin Ahsoka off into her own show. Part of that setup was the other big revelation in this episode, that the magistrate is working for Thrawn. If Ahsoka gets her own series, I'm guessing Thrawn will be a big part of it. I'd like to talk more about Thrawn and what role he may play in the show going forward, but it's really outside the bounds of this review, so I won't get into it here. I may do a video about that soon, though. Now, another question that this episode poses is, okay, if Grogu was being trained at the Jedi Temple and then he was taken away when the Purge happened, then who took him? You know, who took him to safety? Obviously, it would seem like, it was a Jedi, but, we don't really know which Jedi that is. Obviously, most of the Jedi are being killed off at that point. So it only leaves really a few likely candidates. Now, one that I feel is probably a good candidate for this role is Jocasta, I believe, who was the archivist or librarian that worked in the Jedi Temple. She seems like a good candidate because she's a Jedi. She likely would have been in the temple because she worked there, and so might have been had opportunity to take Grogu away. But she's a fairly minor character, and she wouldn't overshadow other characters, and you wouldn't have to change continuity or change established canon a lot to have her doing this, because she didn't really do much of anything anyway. So that's my guess on who that's going to turn out to be. Now, what did you think of this episode? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button before you leave. Also, please do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching.